right? So in our previous class, we were trying to talk about our active earth pressure for the condition of C5 soil. Okay. Uh, so this is what we have been talking about, that is active earth pressure. In the case of C5 soil is what we have been discussing. And what we have seen is the expression for determining the active earth pressure. That's nothing but sigma A dash is equal to Ka into sigma V dash minus 2C dash into under root K. This was the expression what we have seen while deriving the expression for your active earth pressure in the case of your C5 soil. And we went on to subsequently understand at some particular depth. Because in this particular case, we said, okay, there is a possibility that in case if your second term, if you look at this expression, in case if this second term, for any reason, if it is higher than that of your first term, what we have here, okay. So if the second term is higher in magnitude when compared to that of your first term, we said the net active earth pressure, that's your sigma A dash value, what you are going to be getting is a negative quantity. And once we said it's negative quantity indicates it is your tensile stress what is getting developed in the soil. And yes, once the tensile stresses are getting developed in the soil, we have understood that as the soil is not capable of taking the tensile stresses, then we said we are going to have what is called as the crack formation getting developed in the soil. That's what we have talked about. Okay, and we have also seen like the earth pressure distribution diagram when you try to plot that particular earth pressure distribution diagram. So with the depth, how your sigma A dash value was varying. We said at the ground level, when Z is equal to 0, your earth pressure, that's the active earth pressure, is going to be negative. And as you move into the deeper depth, you are going to have your active earth pressure distribution diagram variation, something like this. And we said this is our earth pressure distribution diagram, what we are subsequently coming across with. In some part of the region, it's negative, and in some part of the region, it is positive. This is what we have seen with regard to your earth pressure distribution diagram. Okay, this negative quantity is nothing but 2C dash into under root Ka. And this particular depth to which this active earth pressure quantity was negative, we indicated it as something Zc, if I remember. And that expression for Zc, when we have derived it, we have got it as 2C dash by gamma into under root Ka. Please correct me if I am wrong. Yeah. So this was the expression what we had for Zc, that is what we call it as your depth of the tension crack. So till what particular depth we are going to be having that tension crack getting developed in the soil because of the tensile stress. So when we have talked about, so we said that Zc value is nothing but it is equal to 2C dash by gamma into under root Ka. So once we know what is the depth till which we are going to come across with what is called as tensile stresses getting developed in the soil, is it compulsory that in all the cases are we going to come across with this so-called tension crack? It need not be. It depends on obviously your sigma A dash value what you are calculating. In case if your sigma A dash value for different depths, if you are coming across with a negative quantity, it indicates that the tensile stresses are getting developed in the soil. In some particular case, you may not come across with your sigma A dash value, though the soil is C5 soil. In some particular case, your sigma A dash value may not come out to be negative at all, because if your K into sigma V dash term is higher when compared to that of your 2 into C dash into under root Ka, so obvious that your sigma A dash is always positive in such particular case. Okay. So it's not compulsory that in all C5 soil you will come across with your tension crack getting developed. But however, theoretically, if at all tension crack is getting developed, to what maximum depth that particular tension crack will be getting developed in that soil means it's nothing but it is 2C dash by gamma into under root Ka. So that's going to be the expression which talks about the depth of the tension crack. Now, after understanding at what depth the tension crack gets developed in the soil, if at all it is getting developed, now let us try to understand what is that depth at which the net resultant earth pressure force is becoming zero on the retaining structure when you are talking about. At what particular depth? If you can look at your earth pressure distribution diagram, we understand that this region refers to that of a net resultant earth pressure force which is negative, and a compensating force from here onwards you might come across till some particular depth where the net resultant earth pressure force is going to be positive, or some depth below your ZC where that resultant force in this region and this resultant force in this region both gets balanced. Okay, this and this gets balanced in terms of the magnitude. One is a negative quantity, other is a positive quantity, and at some particular depth below the ground level, let's say I am referring that depth to be something HC, or at some height of the retaining wall below the ground surface, you are going to see the net resultant earth pressure force coming on the retaining wall is going to be zero. Okay, so my objective is to understand what is that particular depth where the net resultant earth pressure force is equal to zero. The net resultant earth pressure force, or the net resultant force coming on the retaining wall over some considered depth of the retaining wall. So where for that region of the depth of the retaining wall, the net resultant force coming on the retaining wall is equal to zero. So what is that particular depth? Z is equal to HC, where your net resultant force is coming out to be zero. Beyond that depth, yes, there will be some positive net resultant force still which comes on the retaining wall. But however, that so-called net resultant negative tries to compensate some net resultant positive magnitude of your earth pressure force. So by what depth that net resultant force is becoming zero is now what we are going to be understanding. Okay, so for calculating that net resultant earth pressure force, first, how do we calculate your net resultant earth pressure force? I am representing it as capital PA. Small pa, sometimes in the books or literature you will be finding it represented for earth pressure, and capital PA you will be seeing for representation regarding to that of your force. Okay, earth pressure force, A indicates active state. Okay, so how do we calculate your force? Force, if at all I want to calculate, it's nothing but your area under your earth pressure distribution diagram is what we said as your net resultant earth pressure force. But in the other way, I can also write it in the integral form. Okay, so this earth pressure force, if I want to calculate in the active state, or even in the case of passive state also, we'll be simply writing it as integral of your earth pressure over the depth of the retaining wall. Okay, so this I can write it as, okay, some books you will be finding it as PA, or here we were following a notation that is sigma A dash over the depth dz. Okay, so I am considering a small elemental strip of the depth of the retaining wall over that complete depth of the retaining wall. If I want to integrate to get what is your total earth pressure force, so I can integrate over the depth 0 to h, where h here indicates the height of your retaining wall over which your earth pressure distribution is coming on. So now if I go on to further substitute into this expression, so sigma A dash, what is this sigma A dash? If I can recall from my previous expression, I can write it as k into sigma V dash. Okay, this is k into sigma V dash minus 2c dash into under root Ka. So this complete into dz. So if I try to integrate this particular expression over the limit 0 to h, so what I am going to be getting? Sigma V dash is what I can write it as sigma V minus u. We are taking an example that there is no water table position, there is nothing like an additional surcharge or no such cases. It's a simple case of soil which is in a dry state or in its natural state without any existence of water table, and there is no surcharge. So automatically sigma V dash is nothing but sigma V, and what is this sigma V value is equal to? It's nothing but k into gamma into z. So I can go on to substitute sigma v dash as gamma into z, and upon integration of this particular expression, what I'll be getting ultimately is what I'm just directly writing it here. I'll be getting the expression as Ka into gamma into h square by 2 minus 2c dash into under root Ka into h. Okay, this is the expression what we are going to be getting upon integration. And what we said is at some particular depth, at some depth, the net resultant earth pressure force, net resultant active earth pressure force is becoming 0. And I am saying that, okay, at a depth something z is equal to hc, your so-called earth pressure force is becoming 0 in that particular soil. So when I say at z is equal to hc, then it means that your expression in the integral function, you are going to be accordingly upon substituting over the depth of the retaining wall, which is not h, it is over hc depth only, something hc. Okay, so if I substitute like that and if I go on to integrate it, what I'll be getting is Ka into gamma into hc square. So it's not that over the complete depth, only over certain depth of the retaining wall, that is nothing but hc depth. Okay, so that is gamma into hc square by 2 minus 2c dash into under root Ka into hc. Okay, this is what we are going to be having for expression. Now in this particular expression, as I replace z with hc, then subsequently this pa term I'll be replacing with what is nothing but 0. Then upon replacing pa is nothing but equal to 0, then what I'll be getting is the expression for hc is what I'll be getting it as 4c dash by gamma into under root Ka. This will be the expression what we are going to be getting. Now, if you can recall this expression for Hc, which I have represented it as 4c dash by gamma into under root Ka, in otherwise I can also even write it as 2 into Zc. Because what is my Zc? Zc is nothing but 2 into c dash by gamma into under root Ka. So Hc is otherwise I can also represent it as twice that of your depth of the tension crack. So at what particular depth the net resultant earth pressure force is becoming 0 on the retaining wall means it's nothing but it is equal to a depth which is twice that of the depth of your tension crack. That's what it means. Okay. Now, what is the importance of this Hc term which I have represented? The depth at which the net resultant force coming on the retaining wall is becoming 0. What is the importance of that particular term which we have represented here? So the importance of the term Hc is, in case if you are trying to make a vertical excavation into the ground, if you are trying to make an open pit excavation or a vertical excavation in the ground, let's say this is my ground in which I am trying to make a vertical excavation without providing any lateral support. Okay, so lateral support in the sense I'm not providing any sheet piles, or I'm not trying to provide any bracings to prevent the failure of your vertical cut what you have made. Okay, so what is the maximum depth to which you can go into the ground to make an open pit excavation without providing any lateral support? So that depth is what we call it as your Hc depth. I repeat, what is your maximum depth to which you can go for an open pit excavation into the ground without providing any lateral support? Lateral support in the sense you are not providing any support here. Okay, we are not providing any kind of support here or not any other kind of support here where sheet piles are driven into the ground or nothing like that. We are not providing any bracing to prevent your surrounding soil failure. Okay, so we are not providing any of this case of lateral supports. Now, what we say is without the provision of lateral support the platform what I'm currently using is not giving more flexibility in writing on that particular page. Okay, so let's bear with it. Earlier, I used to use the PPT where the writing part used to be more comfortable, but we are having some issue with that PPT when I'm opening in the full mode through the Meet. Okay, so without the provision of lateral support, the maximum depth to which an open pit excavation can be done is HC. Okay, so without providing any lateral support, if I want to go on to construct a shallow foundation, let's say, so if I want to construct a shallow foundation, what do we do? So we need to make an open pit excavation. So what is that maximum depth till which I can go on to make an open pit excavation without providing any lateral support? And that to the cut what I am making into the ground is perfectly vertical. I repeat, the cut what you are making into the ground is perfectly vertical. The open pit excavation what you are carrying out into the ground is perfectly vertical. So to what maximum depth you can go on to make that open pit excavation into the ground without providing any lateral support is what is called as HC depth, and that HC is what we are writing it as 4C by 4C dash by gamma into under root K. So this is the expression what we have. In case if the soil what we are looking at is in undrained state, if I am talking about, so what is mean by undrained state or undrained condition? So when I say the soil is in undrained state or undrained condition, then your phi value what we are looking at is nothing but it is equal to 0 degrees. So in the case of an undrained condition or in the case of the undrained state, your angle of shearing resistance existing in that particular soil is nothing but it is equal to 0. Then for phi is equal to 0, automatically what will be your value of Ka? Ka is nothing but 1 minus sine phi by 1 plus sine phi. So if I substitute phi is equal to 0, automatically Ka value what I will be getting is nothing but 1. And for Ka is equal to 1, then my expression what I'll be looking at is HC is nothing but 4C, or in fact you will be seeing the term as 4Cu, because if the soil is in an undrained state, automatically your shear strength parameters are defined as Cu and phi u. So your phi u value is nothing but 0, and what you have is Cu, so 4Cu by gamma. That's how you will be getting your expression. If you can recall, the same thing I hope I've also discussed when I was talking about your slope stability analysis, where I said I can go on to provide a slope which is merely vertical. If you can recall, where I said beta angle was the slope angle. So if beta is equal to 90 degrees, what is the maximum depth till which you can have the slope to be still stable? Okay, so the slope still to be stable means what is that maximum height to which you can have that particular excavation done or that slope constructed without providing any kind of lateral restraining support. That's what is the case what we are looking at here. Okay, even in the case of slope stability analysis, I have discussed about your the depth of the tension crack also. So the same expression what we have represented earlier is what we have derived in our previous class. Okay, so the same things what we have earlier seen is what we are trying to talk about now. So after looking at your active state for C5 soil, now let's quickly go on to talk about your passive condition. In the case of your passive condition for your C5 soil, yeah, how do we go on to derive the expression for your passive earth pressure for C5 soil? So if I want to go on to derive your expression for passive earth pressure, see, I'm not once again deriving the same expressions again and again. So I'll just quickly go back to my earlier classes, what I have talked about. So where I represented an expression something like this, I'm using the same fundamental expression. So that's nothing but sigma 1 dash is equal to sigma 3 dash into, so sigma 1 dash is equal to sigma 3 dash into, it can be tan square, or I can write it as 1 plus sine phi dash by 1 minus sine phi dash plus 2c dash into cos phi dash by 1 minus sine. So this was the expression what we had. And in the case of passive condition, we know that sigma 1 dash, what is your major principal stress in the case of your passive condition? So my major principal stress in the case of passive condition is your sigma h dash, or in fact now I can write it as your sigma p dash. That's your passive earth pressure. And what is my minor principal stress? My minor principal stress is nothing but your sigma v dash. Okay. So therefore, upon substituting what is sigma 1 dash and sigma 3 dash, and then subsequently replacing your 1 plus sine phi dash by 1 minus sine phi dash and cos phi dash by 1 minus sine phi dash. So what I'll be getting there is, therefore, your sigma p dash, because sigma 1 dash is nothing but sigma p dash, which is equal to kp into sigma b dash plus 2c dash into under root kp. This is what we are going to be getting the expression as. See, it's not that we are deriving anything new. So from same thing what we have been talking about in our previous classes, I am trying to directly write down the expression for your passive earth pressure, considering your C and phi parameters for that particular soil. Okay. Now, if I look at this expression for sigma p dash, what do I see is sigma a dash expression and sigma p dash expressions. They are more or less similar, but only difference is that in the case of your active earth pressure expression, you had a negative symbol in between the first and second term. But in the case of your passive earth pressure, you have a positive symbol, in the sense your passive earth pressure, what we are trying to talk about, is always a positive quantity, in the sense you will always come across with what is called as negative earth pressure condition in the case of your passive state. For the soil which is existing in passive state, always the soil will be subjected to a nature of stress which is said to be compressive. At any particular depth, if you want to calculate, for any z equal to 0 or 1 meter or 2 meters, whatever value you want to substitute into the expression of the passive earth pressure, always you will be getting the value of your passive earth pressure, which is going to be positive. Okay, but that's not the case in the case of your active state, because in the case of active state, over some particular depth, there is a possibility that your active earth pressure could be negative. That totally depends on how much is the magnitude of your first term in the expression and the second term in your expression. That is, Ka into sigma v dash is how much, and 2c dash into under root Ka is how much. Depending on those magnitudes, we were understanding that whether your net resultant active earth pressure is coming out to be negative or positive at any particular depth. So if it is negative, it indicates that your earth pressure there is a tensile stress, and if it is tensile, obvious that there is a possibility of having what is called as a tension crack in that particular soil over some particular depth. Okay, so this is something what we understand with respect to that of your passive condition, or the passive state at which you have got both C5 parameters for that particular soil. And once you know your expression for passive earth pressure, then you can go on to plot how your passive earth pressure distribution varies with the depth. If you want, let's quickly understand something here itself, how your passive earth pressure varies with the depth. So with the depth, let's say, how is your effective stress varying? It could be your vertical effective stress, or subsequently your passive earth pressure. How is it varying with the depth? So I can understand that if the soil is same throughout the depth of the retaining wall, then your sigma v dash is going to be varying like this. And once I know sigma v dash is varying like this, then this is the curve for indicating the variation of sigma v dash with the depth. And how about sigma p dash with the depth? So sigma p dash is always greater than or equal to your sigma b dash. So in that sense, I can say this is how your variation of your sigma p dash is going to be existing with the depth. Now, when someone asks you to calculate your active earth pressure or passive earth pressure, are we really required to calculate sigma a dash or sigma a, or sigma p dash or sigma p? Okay. So whenever you are referring to what is called as an earth pressure, so earth pressure generally means it is your total stress condition. It means you are required to understand to plot sigma A, how is it varying with the depth? Sigma P, how is it varying with the depth? So how do I plot sigma A varying with the depth, sigma P varying with the depth? So for which you require what is sigma A dash, how is it varying with the depth? Then pore water pressure, if you know how is it varying with the depth, then sigma A dash plus pore water pressure gives you sigma A value at any particular depth, and accordingly you can plot the variation of sigma A with the depth and subsequently sigma P value with the depth, depending on the condition of the soil, at which state the soil is existing, whether the soil is existing in what is called as passive state or whether the soil is existing in what is called as your active state. Okay, so let's quickly go through whatever we have talked about in our earlier classes and in today's class, in just going through some of the slides represented here. Okay, so here it indicates that no, we are talking about your Rankine's earth pressure theory for active earth pressure condition, where we said when the retaining wall is moving away from the position of its initial condition, this delta x indicates that that's the displacement what you are having in the position of your retaining wall, where the rotation in the retaining wall is happening with respect to its bottom. So in such particular case, how your failure planes are going to be existing, at what angle of inclination the failure planes are going to be existing is already what we have talked about. We said your failure plane, what we are going to be defining, exists at an angle of inclination 45 plus 5 by 2 with the horizontal. This is in the case of active state. And in the case of passive state, when it comes to the case of passive state, your failure envelope or so-called failure plane would exist at an angle of inclination. I should not call it as failure envelope. Rather, the failure plane, what you are going to be talking about in the case of passive state, would exist at an inclination of 45 minus 5 by 2 with the horizontal, or 45 plus 5 by 2 with the vertical. So, which we have discussed in detail already. Okay, so which type of retaining wall? All these cases we have been talking about. We have made some assumptions earlier when we were trying to discuss about your Rankine's earth pressure theory, where we said your retaining wall is vertical and it is smooth. Okay, so for that particular condition, that's nothing but your smooth vertical retaining wall with cohesionless backfill. What does this backfill material means? The soil which is getting retained on the higher elevation is what we are calling it as your backfill material. Okay, and if that backfill material, that's nothing but the backfill soil, if it is cohesionless, that's nothing but your C dash value is nothing but it is equal to 0, or the C value for that particular soil is nothing but equal to 0. What you have is only the phi value. So already we have seen how to calculate your active earth pressure distribution for soil which is said to be cohesionless, or for the soil which is said to be purely cohesive, or for the soil which is said to be both having C and subsequent phi parameters. Just a quick glance of what we have talked about. So in case if the soil is cohesionless, then we said how your active earth pressure distribution is going to be, that already we have seen how to calculate. And once you know what is your active earth pressure distribution diagram, then I can go on to calculate what is your net resultant active earth pressure force. That's nothing but the area under your active earth pressure distribution diagram is one way, or in the form of the integral function also I can try to write it. Just couple of minutes we were trying to talk about how to calculate your net resultant earth pressure force. If you want to calculate over the complete depth, you can do, or for whatever depth you want, accordingly you can calculate that net resultant earth pressure force only till that particular depth, and you can write down the expression in the form of integration, and then continue to get the complete expression. Either I can directly write it as the area under that earth pressure distribution diagram. If you want, you can cross verify it. So the area under the earth pressure distribution diagram here is nothing but, we said it's a triangular distribution. So area is half into what is the base value, that is small pa. Small pa is nothing but, we'll be getting it as Ka into sigma B. What is sigma B? Sigma B was nothing but gamma into H, because it was the maximum depth of the retaining wall. So where Z is nothing but H. So that's a width of the earth pressure distribution diagram, the triangle what you had, and the height of the retaining wall is H. So from that I can get half into gamma is there, Ka is there into H square. Okay, the same thing what we are also getting from your integration. So it's not that we are getting something different. So the same thing is what we are also getting from your integration function. Yeah. So it's not always that you are going to encounter the situation where the soil is in a dry state or something like that. Sometimes for the same cohesionless soil, you might have the condition of existence of water table. Water table may not be always at the top of your backfill material. Sometimes water table can also be there at some particular depth below the ground surface. So in such particular case also, how do we understand to plot your earth pressure distribution diagram? Okay, so this is your earth pressure distribution diagram taking into consideration of only your sigma A dash distribution. And this is your pore water pressure. How is it varying with the depth? As I said, whenever somebody talks about you to calculate what is your net resultant earth pressure force, so it's nothing but you are required to calculate first what is your active earth pressure distribution considering your total stress distribution diagram. So that means sigma A is what I am required to calculate. How do we calculate it? At any particular depth, sigma A is nothing but sigma A dash plus your pore water pressure. So once I know how to get your sigma A varying with the depth of the retaining structure, so then I can go on to calculate what is your net resultant earth pressure force, and at what height that net resultant earth pressure force is going to be acting, and all that we can go on to calculate. So we'll try to talk about this, how to calculate and so on, by applying to some problems which we can solve it. Okay, so that it makes our life more simple in understanding them by solving the problems, right? So I just mean to tell you here is, always you may not be just looking at a simple condition that no, there is no existence of water table, it's a homogeneous soil throughout the depth of the retaining wall, there is no existence of surcharge load acting on the backfill. You don't come across, you will not come across with all such classic cases every time. So you might even have the existence of water table. You might also have the condition of surcharge load acting on the ground in the sense on that backfill material. Okay, and you might also have some layered soil existing on the existing as a backfill material. It means the soil throughout the depth of the retaining wall may not be uniform. Here, soil over this particular depth might, this I'll call it as, let's say, layer 1, and this I'll call it as layer 2 soil, and the rest is another layered soil. This is layer 3 soil. So what is that we are ultimately trying to understand here? So soil, whatever we are going to be looking at, is not always uniform also. The backfill material, what you are filling on the other side of the retaining wall, may not have a uniform soil throughout. In such particular case also, how do we know how to plot your earth pressure distribution diagram? Okay, so how exactly we should take into consideration of the change in properties or change in soil conditions from one layer to the other layer and other layer to the next layer and so on. So all that we'll try to talk in while taking up some problems. Okay, so while solving those problems, we'll take into consideration of all those cases, and we'll try to solve it, so that it makes our life more simple in understanding the concepts and then knowing how to subsequently solve those problems. Okay, the same once again with another condition added to it. So you are taking into consideration of the water table, and you are also even taking into consideration of what is called as your surcharge. Okay, so here still you are going by what is called as a uniform soil, but as I said, always it may not be a uniform soil throughout. You will also even come across with what is called as a layered soil condition. Okay, so that also we can go on to subsequently talk about. Next, in the case, if you are looking at for the same thing, it's a smooth vertical retaining wall with a backfill which is horizontal. Okay. Earlier also what we have talked about is smooth vertical retaining wall with backfill horizontal. Okay. But earlier was for your active earth pressure condition. Here it is for your passive earth pressure condition. That's it. Otherwise, there is nothing much difference. And these cases already we have earlier talked also in our previous class. We have discussed about this passive earth pressure distribution diagram. How is it going to be without considering the effect of water table, without considering the effect of layered soil condition as your backfill material, and without taking into consideration of the surcharge at the ground level. So simple expression we have already seen this particular case of expression for calculating your net resultant passive earth pressure force. If I want to calculate, I'll be getting it as half into Kp into gamma into h square. So in the case of passive earth pressure theory, yes, we know that your retaining wall is going to be moving or rotating towards the soil. The amount of displacement what you are going to be having in your retaining wall towards the soil is something delta x, and the rotation in the retaining wall happens with respect to the bottom position of the retaining wall. And we see here that the failure plane what we are going to be representing, this is indicating you the failure plane. So that failure plane what we are representing is making an angle of inclination 45 minus 5 by 2 with the horizontal, or in the way if I want to represent the angle how much your failure plane is going to be making with the vertical, so it's nothing but 45 plus 5 by 2 with the vertical. That's what we are going to be having with the vertical axis or vertical plane. So sometimes there would be a slight confusion like what is the relation between this Ka and Kp, because Ka is what we write it as 1 minus sin phi dash by 1 plus sin phi dash, and Kp is what we write it as 1 plus sin phi dash by 1 minus sin phi dash. So how this Kp and Ka are related, interrelated means they are inversely related. Kp is nothing but 1 by Ka, or Ka is nothing but 1 by Kp. That's how I can go on to write down a relation between Kp and Ka. And now let's quickly go on. In the earlier slides, what we have been looking at is the Rankine's earth pressure theory, based on which you are trying to talk about how your active earth pressure distribution is varying with the depth, passive earth pressure distribution is varying with the depth for cohesionless soil. So next, let's all quickly understand in the case of your C5 soil, because always soil may not be cohesionless. So we'll be coming across with for your C5 soil. In the case of your C5 soil, how do we go on to get your earth pressure distribution diagram? Okay, so if I want to plot how is your active earth pressure distribution diagram is going to be for your C5 soil. So what is our expression for sigma A dash? Sigma A dash is nothing but Ka into sigma V dash minus 2c dash into under root Ka. So if you look at here, this portion of your earth pressure distribution diagram is for this term, and this portion of the earth pressure distribution diagram is for this term. This, both of them put together, is going to be telling you what is your total earth pressure distribution diagram. That is, this diagram, whatever we have, is for this term. Okay, so how is your complete earth pressure distribution diagram you are getting? Taking into consideration of the first term in your expression, taking into consideration of your second term in your expression. Okay, sir, why are you splitting and drawing that earth pressure distribution diagram? It's not mandatory that you are required to split it and draw it. You will be drawing it just only for your convenience. What is that convenience? Why is that convenience? We'll try to understand later on. Because if you are going to be merging it and drawing it, sometimes people might find it difficult to calculate your net resultant earth pressure force. Okay, so for making their life simple, they look at your earth pressure distribution diagrams part by part, and then accordingly they calculate where does the net resultant earth pressure force comes for this case and for this case. Okay, so for two different cases, where does the net resultant force act, they'll calculate, and then accordingly they'll make use of your concept from centroids to calculate where does the resultant of those two resultant forces going to be acting in the vertical direction on the retaining wall. So while solving the problem, we'll try to understand those particular approach of how to solve that and how to get to know how to calculate your net resultant force acting on the retaining wall. At what height your net resultant force acts on the retaining wall. That particular case, if I want to calculate, we'll see how to do that. Yeah, so whenever there is a tension crack which is getting developed due to that net resultant tensile force which was getting developed in the soil, so because of which, if there is a tension crack, what is getting developed in the soil, so if the tension crack what you are trying to look at, if it is, look at this case, what is the difference between the first case and the second case? The first case says that there is a tension crack which is not immediately getting adjacent to the position of the retaining wall. So tension crack is not getting developed immediately adjacent to the position of the retaining wall. So in such particular case, you will have what is called as your negative stress distribution as well as your positive stress distribution indicated as your earth pressure distribution diagram. But in case if there is a crack which is getting developed between your wall and the soil which is adjacent to that retaining wall, so at the interface between the retaining wall and the soil, if the crack got developed, so obvious that the pressure coming from this portion of the soil over this much depth of the soil, whatever the pressure that is coming in the form of your earth pressure distribution on the retaining wall, so that earth pressure distribution would not come into picture. Why? Because over that much depth of the soil strata, the soil is not directly coming in contact with the position of the retaining wall because of the crack which is separating the soil and the retaining structure there. So if the soil is not in contact with the retaining structure, so it is obvious that there will not be any earth pressure distribution diagram over that particular depth of ZC. Okay, so earlier the so-called negative earth pressure distribution diagram what we had, so that portion of the earth pressure distribution diagram we are not going to be talking about because the soil is not in contact with the retaining structure over that particular depth. Soil is not exerting any pressure on the retaining structure over that particular depth because of the crack which got developed immediately adjacent to the position of the retaining structure and the soil. Okay, so over what depth then you are going to be talking about the earth pressure distribution diagram means only over some particular depth below your ZC only you are going to be looking at your earth pressure distribution diagram, and obvious that over the depth beyond the depth of ZC your earth pressure what gets developed is always a positive earth pressure. Okay, so that's why in the case of active state when you are talking about beyond that depth of ZC, so your positive earth pressure distribution is what you are going to be coming across. Sometimes, let's say for example, though it's a crack which got developed adjacent to the position of the retaining structure, as we said, there is no effect of the soil directly coming in contact with the retaining wall to plot the earth pressure distribution diagram over the depth ZC. But however, because of rainfall or because of your rise in water table or whatever the condition it is, if the crack what got formed here, if it is getting filled with water, this portion of the crack, if it is getting filled with this water, the tension crack, if it is getting filled with water, even in the slope stability analysis we discussed about this. In case if that crack is getting filled with water, what does that water does? That water which got filled into the crack will exert some pressure on the retaining wall. Now what is that pressure called as? That pressure is nothing but we call it as your pore water pressure. Okay, pressure exerted by the water on your retaining structure. Okay, so over what depth that water pressure distribution you are talking about? Over the depth of ZC. I repeat, over a depth of ZC, you are going to be looking at the pore water pressure distribution diagram, or rather earth pressure. It's not be typically called as earth pressure now, it should be called as your pore pressure because of the water which is directly in contact with your retaining wall surface now. So water will be exerting some pressure on the surface of the retaining wall over a depth ZC. And what is going to be your earth pressure distribution diagram if we are looking at for this particular region? So that earth pressure distribution diagram, if you want to understand how is it going to be varying over that particular depth, it's nothing but it is equal to gamma W into Z. Okay, so what is the maximum pore water pressure getting developed? It's obviously at a depth Z is equal to ZC. So in that particular case, Z is equal to ZC. So what is ZC? It's nothing but 2C dash by gamma into under root Ka. If the soil is in undrained condition, that means phi is equal to 0. Then you'll have your expression represented as 2C by gamma. Okay, don't please get confused. In some cases where your tension crack depth is indicated with what is called as 2C by gamma. Okay, so what is this ZC is equal to 2C by gamma indicating you? So it is indicating you that your phi value is equal to 0. Whenever your phi value is equal to 0, it's obvious that your ZC, what you are referring to, is nothing but it is 2C by gamma. So even in the earlier class where we had the issue with the slide, I was trying to focus on this particular term. That's nothing but in case if there is a crack formation in the soil but not immediately adjacent to the position of your retaining wall, then you'll have your negative earth pressure distribution coming into picture over the depth of ZC. But however, if the crack formation, what we are trying to talk about, if it is getting developed immediately adjacent to the position of the retaining wall, as there is not direct contact between the soil and your retaining wall over the depth of ZC, so you don't talk about your earth pressure distribution diagram over that particular depth ZC. And in case if that crack which is adjacent to the position of the retaining wall is getting filled with water, so water exerts some pressure on the vertical face of the retaining wall, which in turn will be calling it as your water pressure distribution, okay, over the depth of ZC, and which we can call it, which we can simply calculate it as unit weight of water into corresponding depth at which you are calculating the pressure due to the water on the retaining wall. So yeah. So in the case of your C5 soil, what we are trying to look at, so it's not that always you'll have only the soil considered there. You might have the case of your water table coming into picture, the case of your surcharge coming into picture, the case of your layered soil coming into picture. Various aspects you will be coming across in each of those. Okay. So maybe while solving the problems, we'll try to come across with some one or two other different combination of loading conditions with soil layer type and so on. But however, it is your responsibility to take all different combinations into consideration and to solve different varieties of problems. But however, we'll take up some couple of problems which will give you an insight in how we are going to be plotting your earth pressure distribution diagram in the case of whether soil is purely cohesionless or purely cohesive. Once we say soil is purely cohesive, it means phi is equal to 0. Once we say soil is purely cohesionless, C is equal to 0. If we say soil has got both C and phi parameters, then C and phi parameters are going to be incorporated into your expression. Okay. So in such particular case of cohesive soil or cohesionless soil or whatever the soil, it could be C5 soil in active state or passive state or at rest condition, whatever it is, we are having an idea of how to plot your so-called earth pressure distribution diagram over the depth of the retaining wall. So once we know how to plot the earth pressure distribution diagram over the depth of the retaining wall, then we can go on to calculate your net resultant earth pressure force coming on that particular retaining wall. Where is that net resultant earth pressure force is going to be acting on the retaining wall, and then accordingly the designer is going to design the retaining structure to take care of that net resultant force coming on the retaining wall, depending on the position where that net resultant force is coming on the retaining wall. So he'll be deciding on what should be the thickness of the retaining wall, how should be the design of that retaining structure, and so on. Okay, so in all our earlier cases, what we have been talking about, either in the case of active state or passive state, for purely cohesionless soil or purely cohesive soil or for C5 soil, whatever, we have been talking about the retaining wall, which is having a smooth backfill, vertical retaining wall with smooth backfill and, it's a smooth backfill with backfill horizontal. That means on the higher elevated side, the ground surface is horizontal, but it need not be. general assumptions of Rankine's set pressure theory says that it's a smooth retaining wall, vertical retaining wall with backfill horizontal. But it's not always that no you will come across with such circumstances. So even Rankine's at pressure theory has also some of these conditions taken into consideration in defining how to calculate your active earth pressure distribution diagram or passive earth pressure distribution diagram in the case of retaining wall, which is still smooth, vertical, but inclined backfill. It could be other cases like retaining wall, which is vertical, but need not be a smooth contact between the soil and the retaining surface. It could be a rough contact. And retaining wall need not be always vertical. It can also be inclined. Okay. So those cases are also taken into consideration, and taking those cases into consideration, how to calculate your so-called Rankine's active earth pressure or Rankine's passive earth pressure, we'll be trying to come across in our next class. So we'll continue our discussion in our next class with Rankine's active earth pressure distribution, taking into consideration of the other factors like sloping ground, that means sloping backfill, or inclined retaining wall, or rough surface of contact between the retaining wall and the backfill material. So we'll also look into those particular conditions in our next subsequent class.